3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody, it's me, the OnCenter Wall Street. Out front of the New York Stock Exchange, corner of Wall and Broad, corner of Walk and Don't Walk, corner of Let's Make Some Money and Learn About the Seasonality of the stock market. We're here at, I don't know, it feels like we're almost at the end of 2025. This has clearly been probably one of the grandest, most incredible years in stock market history. Everything that possibly could happen to a stock market has happened in 2025. Okay, let's think about it. Okay, we've had the high highs, the low lows. We've had tariffs, we've had interest rates, we've had wars, we've had gold going wild, we've had crypto going wild. I mean, markets at their highs, markets at their lows, mini crashes. Seriously, anything that possibly could happen in a stock market happened in 2025. And clearly, a lot of it was probably caused by the new administration, new sheriff in town, whether you like him or not. It's caused a lot of anxiety and a lot of volatility in the market, probably based on a lot of it being tariffs and whatnot. The question of the day is, though, seasonality. How much does seasonality affect the stock market? Every month, every quarter, every season does affect the way the stock market works. Now think about it. The way the markets trade is based on, very often on historic data. Okay, if you're day trading the market and you're doing technical analysis and you're charting stocks, a lot of it is based on what it did last month, what it did last week, what it did yesterday, and then what did it do in the last hour, in the last 5 minutes, and 1 minute, right? Those are the charts that we look at, the 1 minute, the 5 minute, the 10 minute, the 15 minute. That's how charting works. But if you look at the market in a seasonal way, right, historically, think about it. Since the beginning of time, since the beginning of like the crash of 1929, okay, and there are famous pictures of this exact spot back in 1929 when the market sold off 60-something% in one day. There were people standing on this street who one day were billionaires and the next day they were paupers. That day, I don't remember the actual day of the crash of 29, but since the crash of 29, we've only had about a handful of crashes, right? We had a crash. We probably had some big sell-offs during World War II. We had the crash of 29, and then let's just kind of focus on my lifetime. I started working on Wall Street in 1985. In 1987, we had a stock market crash. It was significant. It was a 39.3% sell-off in one day. It's known as Black Monday. It happens in October. Now, does every October, every Monday in October since the crash of 87 have sort of a dark cloud over it? Absolutely. Do people always think that October is one of those months where the market tends to be fragile because of people's bad memories about what happened on Black Monday? Absolutely. Does it make any rhyme or reason that that actually happens, given all the other stuff that goes into all the other components that affect the way a stock market works? Should it be that because a market crashed on a Monday in 1987, that every single Monday and in October in all the years subsequently is going to be a dark day? It doesn't make a lot of sense, but there's a psychological component to the way markets trade. People have memories about things. Now, we think about it, let's see. So we had the crash of 87. We had the bubble of 2000, the internet bubble, right? There was 95 to 99, everybody building it up. The internet came along. Everybody thought it was the next thing, and it did turn out to be the next thing. But there was a period where it all crashed and burned before it ended up rebuilding itself. Crash of 87, crash of 2000, the 07, 08, 09 financial crisis called the Great Financial Crisis. Each one of these things, it's important for you all to note. And then there was COVID, and then what I call the mini crash of 2025, which was that self-inflicted sell-off that was caused, I believe, by the administration and the whole questions with tariffs from February 19th to April 19th of this year. Now, so that's a handful of crashes, and I don't use the word lightly. I think it's important not to use it. Mainstream media tends to catastrophize markets. It was the biggest day ever. It was the worst day ever. It's never been happened since 1983. We've never seen that since 2005. There's always that catastrophism around markets, the high highs, the low lows, the roller coaster of love, all that kind of craziness. So it's really important to note that each one of these crashes and each one of these seasons has different components that cause it to trade in a similar fashion, year after year, month after month, season after season. So what happened this year? Let's talk about 2020 through 2025. Now, we know what happened in 2020. We had COVID. I forgot about the crash of COVID. March 2023, March 23rd of 2020 was the COVID crash. The market sold off 10,800 points on the Dow, 20-something% on the S&P. NASDAQ got crushed. The whole market sold off aggressively. Now, what's also important to note is I could just do a video literally on the crashes and the components that made up the crashes and how we got out of the crashes, how we crawled our way out. That'll be maybe a different video, but let's talk about seasonality. August, summer, no, think about our lives. Think about how the markets are affected by retail buying, by kids going back to school, by summertime vacations. There are different stocks and different sectors that look, think about it. I mean, I can be as basic as this. What do you think happens in December? Right? Think about it. The stocks, the retail stocks that are involved in the big Christmas holiday are stronger during Christmas. Makes perfect sense. Macy's, Target, Walmart, super strong. Retail, luxury, and average retail are super strong during Christmas time. Now, what about like during Thanksgiving? Obviously, you would think a lot of the food stocks and the food companies, right, and the retail food stores are more robust during Thanksgiving because everybody's eating, everyone's getting together with family, and everybody is going out and buying food. So summertime historically, while you will see a bit of a divergence, now, so what stocks go up in the summer and what's go down, right? Like if you think about it, there are actually people who trade the seasonality of markets. Now think about it. So everyone's on vacation. Well, what are they going to be doing during the summer? They're probably either going to be traveling, going on cruises, or vacationing. Well, what stocks are going to benefit from all that? Carnival Cruise, Norwegian Cruise Lines. Those are things. Airlines, people are going to be traveling more, right? Resorts, international, casinos. Those are the stocks that are going to benefit during the summer holiday. What stocks are not going to be are the ones that involve our day-to-day lives. And so historically, June, July, and August tend to be a little bit quieter. August, of course, more than most. But, you know, I mean, I could talk to you about the seasonality of markets like September. September historically has also been a bit of a volatile, controversial a month because of all the things that have happened in September. Last year, August 6th, we had the crash of the Japanese stock market. That rolled over and caused our market to crash on August 5th, right here. We had the October crash of 87. Every October since then has been a dark cloud. It may affect the day, it may affect the week, it may actually have a cloud over the whole month. Last September, we started to cut interest rates finally after waiting for a long time. That's in people's memories. It's all about the psychology of trading that affects the seasonality of how the stock market works. So is there a seasonality around September? Well, there is. But to be perfectly honest, there's a seasonality around August. August was supposed to be a quiet, lackluster summer month. But as I just described to you, there's not a thing that didn't happen this August. The stock market had the high highs, the low lows, the roller coaster of love. Every possible thing that could happen to a stock market happened this August. So if you were sitting around thinking that this is going to be a quiet, lackluster August month at the stock exchange, you were wrongo, okay? So let's talk about September, October, November, December. There's seasonality to every one of the months. So while in the olden days, before there was as much volatility as there is in the market now, before there was so many components with 50 million plus retail traders, think about it. We have a whole new demographic trading the market now. And as markets get bigger, think about this. I know I'm a little all over the place, but I'll be able to wrap this up for you because it's super important to note that before COVID, before 2020, you needed to be an accredited investor to invest in the stock market. What did that mean? That mean like your grandparents or your parents wanted to open up an account at Merrill Lynch or Smith Barney or wherever and trade the stock market, not necessarily trade the market, but invest in the stock market. They had to prove that all the money they put into the stock market, if they lost it all, would have no effect on their standard of living for 5 years. Well, in my opinion, nobody but the rich of the rich, the 1% of the 1% can really prove that if they lost all the money they give, it'll have no effect on your standard of living. That's kind of kept Wall Street a bit on the exclusive side, right? not everybody, I'm not sure every Tom, Dick, or Harry here is in the stock market, right? I mean, now, that's historically. But now, after COVID, so that was pre-COVID. What ended up happening during COVID was what I call the democratization of the trading community. Basically, everybody with an iPod and $100 could suddenly trade the stock market. That is massive. That is huge, right? That changed the whole landscape of the stock market. 50 million new retail traders came into the market. Now, think about it. Those, and we could talk about, we got a million videos we can make here. If you think about it, that whole time around COVID was extraordinary in so many ways, because we suddenly had this new 50 million people coming in, the new retail traders, the new demographic that created the new landscape in the stock market. And they got smacked around pretty hard because they had been told that this was a get-rich-quick scheme. They had been told that you trade using FOMO, hype, and hope, that you don't use education, that you don't use fundamentals, that you don't use technicals. They were wrong. They got their asses beaten. And they got their asses beaten by the meme stocks too. So if you think and you go back to COVID, right, everybody was sheltered in place. Suddenly they had Robinhood and Webull. There was accessibility to the market for the first time in history. It's like if I suddenly, you guys, nobody was invited to my house for the party. I threw the best parties in the world. You were never invited. There was a red rope outside. We didn't want you at our place. And suddenly I invited you to the party. I gave you access to it. But I didn't warn you that the food was spicy, and if you drank 12 vodkas, you were going to get sick and start puking on the side of the road. All of the dynamics that have changed, that are in the new stock market with the 40, 50 million new traders, the new retail investor that came into the market with the advent of free trading apps, right, is huge. Look, up until then, the market was very restrictive, exclusive. Not everybody could invest or trade the stock market. Since COVID, everybody with an iPhone, $100 could trade the market. So I'm giving you sort of a bit of a background around that question of seasonality, because what used to be something that really governed and curated the way the market traded around seasonality, like as I said, Christmas, certain stocks thrived at Christmas, certain stocks did not. Certain stocks were robust during the summer, certain stocks were not. That's seasonality. August tended to be a quiet month. September was a bit volatile. October was usually a pretty down month, right? January, February, usually a good robust month because of new, fresh money coming into the market. All this seasonality that I described to you is kind of out the window in the new world that we live in. With 50 million new retail traders and the whole broadening of the whole investment and the trading landscape and the community is a revolution, ladies and gentlemen. It's brand new. And so I think that all those new people, and now all those retail traders who came in during COVID and got their ass beat and are starting to come back now. Dan Ives and I did a piece recently where we kind of analyzed the retail trader who got his ass beat by the meme stocks during COVID. They were all sheltered in place. They had all never traded the market before. They all thought it was a get-rich-quick scheme. They all suddenly had a couple shekels in the bank from the stimulus package from COVID. They were all had no jobs. Everybody was at home. And meme stocks showed up. The perfect friggin' storm. Everybody, oh God, GameStop's going from bankrupt to $2 to $20 to 483 and right back down to 2. That happened over and over, time and time again every day. And the retail investor who had no experience trading this market got their ass beat. They got burned. They walked away with their tail between their legs, and they hoped never to come back to Wall Street again. That's a misclaimer, a misnomer. I thought that was going to be the case. But what we've seen over the last number of months, what started to happen during February, March, April of this year, was when we had that self-inflicted economic Armageddon that we had caused by tariffs that happened in February 19th to April 19th of 2025. It was not that retailer who we thought was an immature trader who was selling the market. It was the institution selling the market. The retailers were buying the dips. So I say all this to say that I'm really excited because the retail trader has matured. Maybe many people watching this video are some of the new retail traders who I've invited into my world and who are now part of the investment community. You've all done a badass kick down job of maturing and learning how to trade. You're not using FOMO, hype, and hope. You're losing technicals. You're using some mindset and psychology around learning how to trade this market. I'm super impressed with the young, new retail investment community. All that being said is, with the advent of all of these new people coming into the world, that what now I'm calling a bit of a misnomer. It's like the irrelevancy of a bull market and a bear market, which used to take generations to happen. It doesn't happen anymore. It happens in a day. A bear market ride used to last from 10 to 15 years, and then it would roll over and be a bear market for a while. During Trump 1.0, when he was in Davos, he started talking about tariffs and China. The stock market sold off 1,400 points by 11:10 in the morning. And by the close of business, we were up 1,400 points. A 2,800 point reversal in the stock market in one day. By definition, we had gone from a bear market to a bull market in one day. What used to take a generation to happen is now happening in a day. So all that being said, I'm also straying a little bit, but what I want to say is that a lot of the terminology used to describe markets, the death clause, bulls and bears, all that different stuff that the catastrophist media uses to describe markets is a bit obsolete. It's irrelevant at this point. I think we need to redo that. Because in a market that can go down 1,500 points and go up 2,000 points in one day, you can no longer use those terms and have them relevant. What's a bear market? What's a bull market? I just did a little video with Speed. I don't know if you know who Speed is. I did not know who Speed is, but he's this cool dude, I guess, who's traveling around the country live streaming his life. I went into a rant with him. I got asked by my man Adam Faze to speak to him about the market and how exciting it was that I invited and welcomed him into the stock market and into Wall Street and into FIDI. And at the end of the day, what I tried to describe to him was, what is a bull market? What is a bear market? How do these markets work? And what's so exciting about that? A bull is a charging market. It goes up. A bear has trouble. If you want to run away from a bear, go downhill, because he's got short little stubby legs and he can't run quickly downhill. Anyway, all this being said is we're in a new world. 2025 is an extraordinary new time, right? Seasonality is no longer that significant. I think every month, all that seasonality has been defied month after month, year after year. Every October is not necessarily a bad market. Every sell in May and go away. That was an old Wall Street adage. Sell in May and go away. What was the idea behind that? Or sell on Yom Kippur, sell on Rosh Hashanah, buy on Yom Kippur. These are old Wall Street adages that used to make sense. Some of them still do. The sell on Rosh Hashanah, buy on Yom Kippur still works. And I'll explain to you that one in a minute. What's significant about the other ones is sell in May and go away means that everyone is done. Schools are out. People are taking vacations. The stock market's going to be quiet. Summer is here. And so why not sell the market? Let everybody kind of bail, but they're going to sell their outperformers, get in their underperformers, rotate the market a little bit, go away for the summer, and come back in June and buy the market. Sell in May and go away. For years it worked. This year it did not work. Sell on Rosh Hashanah, buy on Yom Kippur. What does that mean? Those are Jewish holidays. Now, the idea behind that, and this one actually has worked probably 20 years in a row. So the Jewish people this is their holiday. It is the day of redemption, the day where they atone for their sins. And it's also a day that they purge themselves of all of their belongings for the year and start the year fresh. So the idea of selling, now we know that there are a lot of Jewish people in the stock market. Not like the Jews control this is misnomer across the board, that the Jews control the banks. That's a really bad one. But anyway, we know that there are a lot of Jewish people in the world, and a lot of them are trading the stock market. All that being said it's amazing to note that if you sell on Rosh Hashanah, meaning that the Jews are purging all of their belongings and selling all of their stocks, and then 10 days later is Yom Kippur, which is the highest holiday, it is the new year, and that they then, once they've purged and they've cleansed themselves of all the things they had done all year long, and they've redeemed themselves and atoned for all their sins, and they're going to get back right in the stock market on Yom Kippur, that trade has worked for a while. So I've given you a long spiel to tell you about the fact that seasonality doesn't really work anymore. every day, every week, every month is a wild and crazy time on the stock market. The information highway, the communication thing that we have with the internet, with AI, with all that kind of crazy stuff is so broad, it's so fast, it's so aggressive that any given week, minute, day, month can be a very volatile time for the stock market. I don't think any January is different than any March. I don't think that there are volatile months and non-volatile months. Sometimes there are a couple of weeks here and there where things are quieter. But look, in a world where we have the new president, the new sheriff in town, we're one tweet away from crazy town. What does that mean? That means that the president, in the old days, this is the last thing I'll say, in the old days when somebody of power was going to disseminate news and information that had global and economic implications in the stock market, it was done before the market opened or after the market closed. You could not send out a tweet in the middle of the day. You could not just suddenly hold an impromptu press conference at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There were standards around people of power disseminating information that would have an effect on the stock market. All bets are off as long as the new administration's in town. Mr. Trump loves to tweet at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what it is keeping him up, but he tweets when he wants, and we're always a tweet away from crazy town. So you know what? The big picture is anything can happen any given day. If you're trading the market, I beg of you, use a stop order on every trade you can so that you don't get backstopped and smacked in the back of the head by a bad trade. Don't ever presume that in August is going to be slow or in October is going to be down, or you have to sell in May and go away. Sometimes it works. If all the components set up for that trade, do it. Use your technicals, use your fundamentals, have fun, trade the market. And that's all I got to say about that.